Senator Ensign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for holding this important hearing. I want to start with Mr. Feinberg. You mentioned before about the governments, local governments, state governments being able to, you don't have jurisdiction over those payments. Who has jurisdiction over those payments? It comes out of the $20 billion, correct?
BP. Comes out of the $20 billion, but those claims should be submitted right now, at least, directly to BP.
And then BP would draw that money. They would authorize the money. The point of the question is, if we're getting down toward the end of that, and you got governments over here claiming they are owed money, and you have private sector over here claiming they, need the money, and who gets that money?
Well, there's $20 billion to hopefully defer any argument. There's no priority. Whoever has a claim, first in, first considered. The claims have to be proven, of course. And finally, BP has again made it clear that if the $20 billion proves to be insufficient, and I hope it won't be insufficient, but if it is, BP has stated publicly it will honor any additional financial obligations that that are proven.
Okay. Taxes will be owed, I would imagine, on just whatever state taxes, local taxes, whatever, on those, if they have state and local income taxes on that money to be paid.
Sales taxes. I see. Yes, it's the equivalent of wages or lost income. Yes.
Yeah. What if you have a hotel and I mean, these are questions that probably need to be answered. What if you have a hotel and that part of that lost revenue is from rooms, but now that local government doesn't get room tax?
I assume that local government is going to submit a claim for lost room taxes, sales taxes, ad valorem real estate taxes. I can see some innovative claims.
Right. No, and the reason for the question is if they submit that to BP, then do you deduct that value because the hotel would have had to pay those taxes? In other words, are you just going to be looking at the net?
That's right. I think I have to mitigate if there are other sources of income, yes.
Okay. One of the concerns you always have during these times, when you have massive potential lawsuits and things like that, and I know you're a lawyer, so you may be arguing against your own interest here, but how do we minimize fees going to lawyers so that the money actually gets to the victims?
Well, that is a controversial question. Now, I am a lawyer. First of all, I want to remind, Senator McCain will recall that in the 9/11 fund, we had over 1,500 lawyers who worked pro bono to help 9/11 victims. I am committed to setting up in this program some sort of pro bono program so that lawyers can represent claimants without fee. When it comes to any private arrangement that a claimant has with a lawyer, that is not on my watch. That's a private contractual understanding. I would say that when I calculate awards under the $20 billion, those are the damage awards that are owed the claimant, and there'll be no add-on or gross up for lawyers' fees.
Okay. Try to give us some idea, how you determine who's eligible, and I mean this is very difficult, and I understand you have a monumental task ahead of you. What Senator McCain, I mean, there's no question, and you're probably going to get criticized someday because there will be some fraud. I think
you say someday.
Yeah. It's impossible not to have some fraud in there, and you have to try your best to try to minimize that. There's going to be some shysters out there and people trying to take advantage, and there will be on cable news and the internet and blogs and the whole thing that there will be stories, and you'll be made to look bad because you weren't doing your job. I think it's impossible to not have that, but try to give this subcommittee an idea of some of the criteria that you're going to be looking at for legitimate claims.
Let's start as a base point. What does the law of Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, and especially the Federal Pollution Control Act say about who's eligible? That's the first question. That's a base point. Mr. Claimant, you're ineligible, and frankly, if you litigate, you'll be declared ineligible. So I'm trying to use as a base point what the law would say. Then, above that, I want to try and do better. I think equitably, I want to try and do better. So the problem's going to come. There are the easy cases, Senator, the easy cases. Oil on the beach. I can't fish in these waters. I can't shrimp. I can't harvest oysters. Those claims are relatively straightforward. Pay them 100% under any fair reading of law.
Except that you don't know how long this is going to last.
Well, that's a separate question, which is there's no oil on the beach yet. Now, fortunately, the well is capped, so we're starting to get a handle on where that oil may be.
No, but what we don't understand is maybe some of the damage that was done by the dispersants and some of the other things on the oyster beds, on the shrimp, you know, and we don't know 2 years from now, 3 years from now, the potential damage that could be done to the industry.
I'm going to have to get some expertise and some help on that. This program will be up and running for 3 years. Hopefully, we'll have a pretty good handle on that. The problem, you've focused exactly on one of the big problems, the indirect claims. Mr. Feinberg, I have a motel 4 blocks from the beach. There's no oil on the beach, none. But because of the publicity and the tourism, I'm off 30%. Right. Here's my records from the past. Here are my records post-spill. I have a claim. Pay me. You're absolutely right. I'm going to have to draw some lines and some distinctions, make those distinctions well known, and try and do equity as best I can.
Are there types of businesses that you won't give claims to?
I don't know off the top what those businesses might be. There are some types of businesses I obviously will pay: fishermen, shrimpers, oyster harvesters, motels right on the beach. The problem's going to be there may be a restaurant that's right on the beach that's dependent on its livelihood with shrimp from the Gulf. What do I do with a restaurant in Las Vegas who writes a claim and says, we have lost 30% of our business because here in Vegas, we're the only restaurant, we have that Gulf shrimp, and now it's gone, and people aren't coming to that restaurant. Where the proximity is so far removed from the Gulf, where do you draw the line? And I'm trying to figure that out now. Well,
one of the reasons that I asked, I actually just thought of this when I was, you know, some people might have a problem with you because you have casinos in Gulfport and down Biloxi and everything that can be affected by this. Do you have a problem with reimbursing if a casino is down 20% of their revenues?
Not if they can demonstrate that they're on the beach, that they're down 20%, that people come to gamble, but they also use the beach. They go on fishing charters, they sightsee. I mean, I'll look at each claim, but I don't have a problem with tourism being compensable under this program. The question is what tourism, and exactly what you're saying, where do you draw that eligibility line?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.